What's going on, Jets fans? Welcome on into the Jets Report. I'm your host, Patrick Seatman. And coming up on today's show, we're going to be discussing some major Jets injury news as three key players on this roster are a little banged up. So we'll dive into those three on the first half of today's show. And then later on today's show, we're going to be looking at all of the Jets PFF grades. We got the top 10 highest graded players and the top 10 lowest graded players. So we'll dive into that on the second half of today's show. But speaking about the injury bug, and just injuries in general. If you guys want the Jets to stay healthy this entire season, get the good mojo heading our way. Hit that thumbs up icon on today's show. But the goal is 200 likes. If you guys could help crush that number, that would be fantastic. So if you have not already, hit that thumbs up icon if you want the Jets to stay healthy. All right, so the biggest piece of injury news here that we're going to discuss, and it's not a good update. Mason Taylor. Aaron Glenn said he was not going to practice today, dealing with an ankle injury. Now, there is no confirmation what ankle this is just yet, so I'm not sure if this is the same ankle that he was dealing with the high ankle sprain a couple of weeks ago. I'm going to assume it is, and, I was very confused when the Jets put out their first depth chart before week one, and they had Jeremy Ruckert listed as the tight end one, and this is probably why. I'm guessing this was the same ankle he was banged up with during training camp, and he was probably feeling, 85, 90%, but wasn't fully at 100%. That's why Jeremy Ruckert was listed as the tight end one, and because there's really no other reason for that to be the case. I was shocked that Taylor wasn't listed there, so I'm guessing it's just an ankle injury holding him up. But I do think with Mason Taylor, with this ankle injury, I think it's going to take him a couple weeks to get going because, obviously the tight end position is a tough position to become accustomed to in the NFL unless you are like a generational talent like a Brock Bowers. But we have seen guys over the last couple of years hit at a higher rate, especially year one. But I just think with this ankle injury, it could take a couple of weeks before we look up and it's like, oh, every single game, Mason Taylor's going out there getting, 4 catches for 50 yards, 5 for 60. I just think it's going to take him some while. And, honestly, if you would have told me that 2 weeks ago saying, hey, this ankle injury is going to be a problem for Mason Taylor, I would have probably been incredibly concerned about the tight end room. But Jeremy Ruckert made a couple of clutch plays during week one, specifically that one third down catch he had. He was running just a hitch route. Justin Fields found him, and there was some traffic in between Justin Fields and Ruckert, but he was able to have some late hands, some strong hands, made a big-time catch. So I'll say this, Jeremy Ruckert, I was calling you out all preseason. You didn't have a good camp. You weren't looking too good. You shut me the hell up week one, so hopefully you can continue shutting me up for week two against the Buffalo Bills. But in all seriousness, hopefully Mason Taylor, gets right, gets that ankle going, and then he'll be a focal point of this offense moving forward. But second player listed here, Quinnen Williams. He left the week one game against the Pittsburgh Steelers with a hamstring injury, and we were live here on the channel when that happened, and I didn't really give a reaction to it. I was just like, oh, that's unfortunate for Quinnen. Probably won't make that big of an impact on this game. Turns out it did. I mean, the Jets definitely felt Quinnen's absence on Sunday when he left that game due to the injury because that led to Xavier Gibson fumbling the football. Now, obviously, Gibson was still back there with Quinnen back there, but who knows? Maybe that ball goes to Quinnen. He doesn't fumble, and the Jets just definitely struggled in the kick return game this past weekend, so they felt Quinnen's absence, but Jamal Pritchett, maybe Arian Smith back there, or they could, send a veteran like Josh Reynolds or Tyler Johnson. Hopefully the kick return game improves. And then also Jay Tufele missed practice today just because of personal reasons, so guessing nothing too serious there going on with Tufele. Hopefully all is good in his life. But overall, Jets are pretty healthy. And that's a great sign heading in this week two matchup versus the Buffalo Bills. But speaking about that matchup, let me ask you guys this. Who is the most important player on the Jets versus the Buffalo Bills? I'll add a disclaimer here. You can't say Justin Fields. It's probably the answer you could give every single week. But besides Fields, who is the most important player on the Jets versus the Buffalo Bills? My answer, put myself on the spot here. I'm not going to go one specific player. I'm just going to go the Jets offensive line. I think you got to dominate in the trenches. You got to play a little ball control against Josh Allen, and that starts up front with running the football. So I'll put all 5 offensive linemen for the most important player on the Jets versus the Bills. But you guys let me know who you think down below. Now, coming up next year on the show, we'll dive into some of the PFF grades from the Jets Steelers week one game and show some love to a bunch of the key players on this team. But before we do so, today's episode of the Jets Report is brought to you by PrizePicks. And PrizePicks is the best daily fantasy app out there. And you and I make decisions every day. But on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on PrizePicks where it's good to be right. And if you guys download the PrizePicks app today, plug in that promo code CLNS. You guys will get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. And PrizePicks, it's super simple to play. All you got to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. And if you guys get your picks right, you could cash in. PrizePicks is also super user-friendly, so all the draws are fast, safe, and secure. They offer Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. Now, here's an example of a lineup I'm rolling with for week 2. I'm going to take the more on Lamar Jackson rushing yards. Same with Justin Fields. And then I got a max discount play with Travis Kelce. Just 1 receiving yard will get you 1 win on PrizePicks. And then also Bijan Robinson going to take his less on 70.5 rushing yards Sunday night versus the Minnesota Vikings. But if you guys want to fade those picks or ride with those picks, just do so at PrizePicks. Now, download the app today. Plug in that promo code CLNS. Get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. But shout out to PrizePicks for sponsoring today's show. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. All right, let's dive into some of the top PFF grades for the New York Jets against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And we'll also dive into some of the worst PFF grades against the Steelers. But number 1, no shocker here. The big foe in the interior of the defensive line, Quinnen Williams, posted a absolutely ridiculous grade, 93.5. This guy was dominating the whole matchup. And you even saw it just on the live TV broadcast. And then when you go look at the film, he even looked better. So no shocker here. He grades out 93.5. But then also Sauce Gardner bounced back from that down year last year, and he's back looking like one of the number one corner in the National Football League. He blanketed DK Metcalf, and it drives me crazy. This grade, 90.3, if that fluky tip ball didn't land in DK's lap, Sauce might have posted like a 93, 94 overall PFF grade, but he was number 1 at the cornerback position, number 1 coverage grade. So shout out to Sauce Gardner, looking like his old self from his first 2 All-Pro years in the NFL. But then the quarterback comes in at number 3, Justin Fields, an 86.4 overall PFF grade. This guy was electric this past Sunday. We saw the dual threat ability. We saw him improve a lot as a pocket passer. And just overall, his feel in the pocket was fantastic. When he needed to take off, he did. But when he needed to sit in there, deliver a strike, he did just that. So shout out to Justin Fields, and then shout out to the big fella. Slowly turning into my favorite player on the New York Jets, Armand Membou. This guy is absolutely ridiculous. And on our show earlier today, I was saying, did Membou have the best debut for right tackle in NFL history? Well, Zach Rosenblatt tweeted this out saying, I went back as far as I could in PFF's grading, and so far as I can tell, Armand Membou had the best overall grade in Week 1 for any rookie offensive tackle since at least 2006. He also had the second best run blocking grade in that stretch behind only Lane Johnson, and only 5 pass blockers had a better pass blocking grade. Ridiculous stuff. And also, keep all this in mind. Who is he going against? He was going against TJ Watt. Like, I am so confident in Armand Membou being not only like one of the better right tackles in the National Football League, but I'm talking all pros. I'm talking potentially winning that new Protector of the Year award down the line. This guy's the real deal. 21 years old, going up against TJ Watt, and that's what you do. So shout out to the big fella, Armand Membou, and then also Justin Fields' college teammate. Pretty good wide receiver. Garrett Wilson posted a solid grade as well, 83.6. But overall, blue chippers were playing like blue chippers. I love having, probably the most well-known names on the team and some of the best players listed here. So shout out to these 5 guys. And then also shout out to Breece Hall, man. He was running like crazy in that game. 78.2 overall grade. And then Jermaine Johnson comes in, 77.1. Even though he didn't get home to the quarterback, he was right there. He had a lot of pressures. He was setting the edge well. He was also playing very good against the run. So it's great to see in his first game back. That's what you do. Can't wait to see him build off that heading into the next week. And then Jowon Briggs, the new addition. Even though very limited snaps for Briggs, he didn't play a whole lot, but still, when he was out there, very productive stuff. And then Joe Tippmann, first ever game with the Jets playing at right guard, went pretty solid, 74.2 overall grade. So he played good. And then the guy who had 2 sacks this past Sunday, Will the Thrill McDonald, played his tail off. And just those 2 guys, Jermaine Johnson, Will McDonald, they're already kind of inching towards their prime. I just can't wait to see what they look like over the next couple of years, building off a great start to this 2025 season. But all those positives. Now let's talk about some negatives. Josh Reynolds came in at number 10 of the lowest PFF grades for the Jets, 58.2. And then our guy, Mason Taylor, came in at number 9, 56.1 here. Not going to overthink this. And the same thing with Arian Smith. He came at number 8. Not going to, overanalyze this. I just think, the rookies, it's going to take some time. Also, they were both getting very limited action, so hopefully they improve off that. But we knew Brandon Stevens was going to be on this list. I'm honestly shocked that he graded out this well. If I was doing PFF grades, I would have probably given him a 30-something overall grade because you dropped the game-winning interception. You cannot tackle. You got cooked the entire game. I don't know what they were looking at to get him up to a 53.5, but he comes in at number 7. And then Michael Carter was at number 6. A little shocked by this. I didn't feel like Carter played that bad of a game. Now, he also missed a couple of tackles, so maybe that's why his grade was so low. But the fact that he graded out lower than Brandon Stevens, a little shocked by that. But I got no, I'll say I got no concerns about Michael Carter not turning it around for the next couple of weeks. But our guy Tufele was actually number 5 here, 51.4 overall grade. Again, limited action, but not too concerned about that. But they also had another one of my guys, Braylon Allen, on this list, 49.9 overall grade. He was not the best at following his blocks, but also, offensive line, it kind of felt like, when they're running with Breece, they were creating massive holes, and Braylon came in and it was all clogged up. But I got full faith in Braylon Allen. And then John Simpson actually had a pretty poor PFF grade, 48.1. A little stunned by that, but not too concerned about him turning around. And then our good old friend, fan favorite here, Michael Clemens, posting a whopping 44.3 overall grade. He did not look too good out there this past Sunday. And then coming in at number 1, the worst Jets player from this past weekend, Tony frickin' Adams. Malachi Moore better get ready to go because I promise you this, Aaron Glenn's not going to put up with this. Because the defense overall, like the blue chippers played like blue chippers. You got good production out of your linebacker core. You got great production out of Sauce Gardner. It was just 2 guys that struggled defensively. Tony Adams, Brandon Stevens. Sure up those 2 spots. This defense will hopefully be back looking like a top 10 unit shortly. But those are all the PFF grades from week 1. And if you guys made it to the end of today's show, hit me with a Go Jets down below in the comment section. Also, hit that subscribe button on your way out. See you guys next time. Go Jets.